Avatar Korra. Hashtag not my avatar.
Nitwit, blubber, oddment, tweak.
When my grandpa was 65, he started running a mile a day to keep fit. He's 70 now, and we have no idea where he is.
Welcome to the Council of Nerds.
The Council of Nerds.
Oh, shoot, Grandpa's gone.
I thought that was going to be like a dead grandpa joke.
Went with the Dumbledore intro from freaking, what is that? That's book 1, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dude, I had no idea what you were saying.
How Dumbledore, he's like, I just have a few words before the feast, and those are the 4 words he says, and then the feast starts.
I've been wanting to reread those books, so even though I've already read
I need
them
to get
twice.
them.
Welcome to the Council of Nerds, folks. As we are that said what we said we are. We are the Council of Nerds.
Our podcast.
We am that we are.
So we are that I nope.
Nope.
Welcome to our club.
Somos que somos.
Yes, that too.
Yeah.
For our Spanish friends. I don't think we have anybody that listens from a
Spanish-speaking
South American country.
Not that I know of. Or Spain.
But we are the Council of Nerds. You can find us pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Podbean. We're pretty much everywhere at this point. We have a Discord as well. Link to join the Discord is on our Instagram page, Council of Nerds. Come hang out with us. Post some funny. Say Discord.
Join our Discord.
Yeah.
Well, you guys don't have to point it out. I mean,
He said
interrupt my
discard.
flow.
What an idiot.
Oh, and this was the last day Brian did the podcast.
He's leaving the
Discord.
Discord.
Hate you guys. We just post funny memes and stuff like that on there. So we're always looking for
On
suggestions on what to talk about. Shut your freaking mouth. Ooh.
Me.
If you can't tell, these two are freaking apes, but ape together strong. So don't forget.
Team Kong. Team Kong.
Dude, I really am.
I'm in hands on GameStop, bros. Apes together strong. But yeah, we're moving on to a bigger, better topic today. That's going to probably be a topic for a good while. We're excited about it.
Yeah. And that topic is Avatar the Last Airbender.
And not Avatar the Blue People, like Dan said freaking in the end of the last episode. The one with the blue people.
I was going to make a joke about it, but now I can't.
It's the one
Cut him off.
It's the one where the blue people get saved by that one guy named Ong.
Yeah. Ong.
Ong.
He's creating fire out of thin air. Ah!
That's so
Those
sad.
cabbages save the day.
All right. Well, for people who don't know what Avatar the Last Airbender is, it is a show that I don't actually remember when it first aired, but it's from the early 2000s, Nickelodeon show, animated.
Let's find out.
It is called Avatar the Last Airbender. When you look that up, you should also see if there's a quick rundown of what the show's, like a synopsis of what the show's about, just to give the people
Aired
what they want.
February 2005, ran through July of 2008.
Okay, there you go.
I can give my own synopsis, I guess.
Yeah, give your own
I
synopsis.
mean, we can all
that's
take.
fine.
So, Avatar: The Last Airbender is a wonderful show. My synopsis. No, it follows a kid named Aang. Well, kind of kid. We'll get into all that. But is he supposed to be like 11?
12.
Yeah.
12, something like that.
Yeah.
In the show, his name's Aang. He is a bender, and in this world, you are either born or not born, lame, with the ability to bend one of 4 major elements: wind, fire, water, or earth. Aang is the last airbender. Whoa. Thus the name of the show. What the Avatar is an individual who can, through time and dedication and training, master all 4 elements. And so that's who he is destined to. Follows his life and follows his antics with his friends as they go about trying to restore peace and order in their world. So it's a good show. It's very nice. Well animated.
Quick point, something that I think you missed is that the Fire Nation is bad and they're trying to take over the world, or the Fire Lord is trying to take over
I
the world.
thought we were gonna get into that a little bit. I was
Oh,
just trying to give
okay,
like
okay.
the most brief of brief.
Okay. I got you. Okay. So,
Okay, it's just crap. It's just crap on Brian day to day.
It's just
so
crap on
it's
Brian
just
today.
everything.
um,
The Last Airbender in anime or not?
so
That's my question.
that is actually a good thing. We'll get
Is
to
it a
that.
debate?
That's a good
Okay.
thing because we'll get to that. First off, the way we're gonna do the Avatar the Last Airbender episodes, we're just gonna kind of do by like we're gonna go by like story arc. And so because if we were to do every episode, it'd take way too long, like an episode per episode. And then if we did a season, it would be like way too short. And so we decided to do like a story
Be
arc.
too much info. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we'll do like a story arc mixed with maybe some random episodes mixed with that story arc. And then if we have a lot of like filler episodes, then we'll take a podcast episode to talk about some filler episodes or something. So we'll do it like that. So today we're talking about like the first 3 to 5 episodes. I'm pretty sure episodes 4 and 5 are kind of somewhat filler episodes, kind of introducing some other characters and stuff. So yeah, that's what we're starting with today. Of the first book or first season, the first few episodes. So
Just want to point out something super crazy.
Yeah.
For those of you who, I mean, there's probably a few people out there that don't know what this show is. That's okay. But just if you were wondering if this was some obscure thing and that's why you hadn't heard about it, and the show was airing, on average, this show is getting 3.1 million viewers on live TV, like actual satellite, when new episodes were being aired.
wow.
Like, it was getting a ton of people for just like I would say, not random, but not super well known,
It's a child's
animated
cartoon.
basically kids show.
Yeah.
Right. It was getting over 3 million people watching each new episode premiere, and the highest it got was 5.6 million.
Wow.
So
It's
go.
impressive. Holy cow.
if that doesn't, make you think maybe this is worth my time, it's very good. It's not so childish that you won't be engaged in the show if you're older, and it's not too adult for your kids to enjoy. So it strikes a very good balance. It's a very good
Yes.
show, and we'll crack into it.
So here's also a thing to kind of add on to that. And this is going into what Dan was saying, I do not like anime at all. I don't. I
Okay.
don't like the furthest I go into anime is like Pokemon, right? Like the classic show Pokemon, the first show. What is that? Indigo or Indigo League?
Yu-Gi-Oh.
No, I don't do Yu-Gi-Oh. No, I don't do Naruto. I know Dan loves anime. I do. Like, he loves Naruto. He's a nerd.
Dan does the freaking run.
Naruto.
And
yeah, I Naruto run everywhere.
he was there at Area 51 when all those kids were Naruto running. No, but I don't like anime. And so this show is kind of like on the edge to me of anime. Like, it has a lot of, and I actually have the whole series on DVD, so I have like some behind the scenes stuff. And so the show is like, a lot of the artists were in, I don't want to butcher it, in Asia somewhere, I can't remember if it was like Korea or Vietnam. I don't know. Somewhere in that general area. That's where a lot of the artists were for this show. And so they had this, I think they wanted it to kind of be on this edge of anime and not anime. And I think
An Americanized
yeah, and that's kind of
anime style.
my line. But I think the thing that makes me love the show so much, that makes me overlook that anime aspect, is just the story. It's an absolutely fantastic story. And so that's why I can, I guess, look over it. But yeah.
For those of you who are wondering about my little intro snip, there was a spin-off show after this show called The Legend of Korra that follows this. I think she's just the next
Yeah, she's
Avatar,
the next
just
Avatar.
after Aang,
Yeah.
right? It's okay. it gets kind of steampunky by that time, and it's
Yeah.
like the 1920s, but like not kind of. It's very interesting. I think parts of it I like a lot, but yeah, Aang's the only Avatar for me.
Honestly, actually, you know what? We'll save that for another time. I have some other stuff about about that I want to talk about. But
Other stuff.
let's get into these first couple episodes. So the first episodes, and also for people who love Star Wars as well, Dave Filoni, who is one of the executive producers and main directors on The Mandalorian. He also did Clone Wars. He directed 8 episodes of the first season of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and then he doesn't do any more after the first season, but he did 8 episodes, and they're all great episodes. And he actually does the first 2 episodes of season 1, and so we'll talk about those. The first episode is The Boy in the Iceberg. So, one of you guys want to start this off?
Like a synopsis of the episode or general overview.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Boy in the Iceberg, well, it starts off, we meet 2 of the protagonists of the show pretty much right away. Siblings. I really like their sibling dynamic. You have Sokka and Katara, and they're just going around kind of fishing, goofing around. Sokka's overly serious, and I think Katara is too in the very beginning. They're both overly serious. But eventually, as siblings do, they start fighting. Katara is a waterbender, and she waterbends the boat. They crash, and then they keep fighting, and then eventually she goes all crazy waterbender, cuts open this huge iceberg, and they're like, "Oh shoot, there's this kid inside," and
That's exactly how it goes.
out pops this glowing kid, Avatar. Well, they don't know he's the Avatar. His name's Aang, and the first thing he says when he wakes up, "You want to go penguin sledding with me?" Which I think that's a perfect introduction to his character, honestly.
Oh yeah.
It's not just Aang, but you got my favorite character of the entire show is with him in the ice. And it's Appa.
Appa.
Appa. Yes, Appa is his flying bison who doesn't want to fly, and so they just swim on it. Or he swims and they sit on
So he just jumps and just hits the water and just starts swimming. It's so funny to me.
Because they don't believe him that it's a flying bison. Sokka and Katara.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they think he's full of it.
Yeah.
Yep. And then
yeah.
I think they go about, they do some adventures, penguin sledding, and then they find the Fire Nation ship. And Aang's like, "What? Fire Nation Navy? What's going on?" And as they're exploring it, he comes to realize, or it comes out that he's been in that ice for 100 or so years since before the war. And he's like absolutely blown away. And then I think the episode ends on a booby trap being set off and a flare shooting way up into the sky.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So I wanted to touch on one thing that you talk about Sokka and Katara being serious.
Mm-hmm.
I think the main reason is because at this point, you don't find this out until a little bit later. They're in the South Pole, right?
Mhm.
So at this point, all of the men of their village have gone off to fight in the war, and Sokka's the only, I guess, adolescent that's left in the whole tribe, and so he's basically in charge of defending his whole village, which would lead you to be a little stressed. And then Katara is one of the few benders that's still there in the village.
She's the only waterbender in the South.
She the only one? I thought her for some reason I thought Grand was a bender.
No, Grand wasn't.
So she has to help with any tasks that the benders are in charge of for her entire village as well. So that would definitely lead to them being more serious individuals when they're only barely teenagers at the time.
Yeah, they're also, both Katara and Sokka are the children of like the leader of the South Pole,
The chief
who went off to war. Now, like we said at the beginning, in this world, the Fire Nation, the Fire Lord specifically, 100 years ago, the Fire Nation started a big war. The Fire Lord started a big war. And so it's been going on for 100 years. And all the other kingdoms, the Water Tribes, the Earth Kingdoms, and, not the Air Nomads because they're dead. But they've all been fighting back, right? So there's been this massive war for 100 years. Aang was the Avatar, told he was the Avatar, and he ran away. And he got into this iceberg, right? And so he's 12
He was
years
caught
old.
in a storm. He was caught in a storm, and he kind of freaked out. In the moment of trying to save him and Appa's life, there's just this really cool moment that
Yeah.
you see him kind of encase himself in ice to protect him and
Yeah.
his, well, at the time, best friend in
Right.
his flying person.
And so it's interesting because he's 12 years old, but he's been in this iceberg for 100 years. So he's 112, but he's only 12. But it kind of creates like he doesn't want to. He knows he's the Avatar, but he doesn't want other people to know he's the Avatar because he was treated differently for being the Avatar 100 years ago when he first found out. And so he has no idea about the war that the Fire Nation has been doing for 100 years. And so that's kind of creating I guess that it's honestly like a great first episode. It introduces your main characters, your three main characters, Sokka, Katara, and Aang. And then it also introduces your big bad. I mean, like, I guess the Fire Lord himself is technically like the main villain, but in the first couple seasons, really, your main villain who's chasing the Avatar is a character named Prince Zuko, who is the son of the Fire Lord.
Zuko.
He is honestly like everyone's favorite character. Like, he has like the best story arc for character arc. And he is with his uncle.
He's accompanied with another Uncle Iroh.
Yes.
What a freaking champ.
Everybody
Love
loves
that
Uncle
guy.
Iroh. Everybody. And Uncle Iroh is just like this old fat. He's like a grandpa, but I mean, he's just like this old fat guy who's super wise. He loves pai show, and he loves and he absolutely loves drinking tea. Yeah.
Tea.
Dude, ginseng tea.
Dude,
Taking it as a vacation.
It's got such a nice vibe.
So like probably I don't know, 5 years. No, sorry, not 5. Like 3.5, 4 years ago, me and my roommates. Have you guys seen the movie Ip Man, or IP Man or whatever?
So good.
Yeah, so we watched it. We watched it in Chinese with the English subtitles. And like he drinks like a lot of tea, and so two of my roommates, because we're weird like that, they're like, dude, we should start drinking tea, man. Like we should just like get like more centered with the tea, like Ip Man. And so they went and like bought teacups and a teapot and tea, and they started drinking tea. And so it always reminds me of that with Uncle Iroh, because he drinks so much tea.
I've been a big fan of tea.
It's so funny.
But yeah, so I mean, to touch on more with so Zuko has been tasked with finding and eliminating the Avatar.
Yes.
By his father, the Fire Lord. Fire Lord Ozai. So that's what he's actually patrolling in the South Pole area, because that was where it was last reported that the Avatar had been seen 100 years ago. Basically, it was like that was the last anybody ever heard of the Avatar's existence. So that's why he's in the area, and so that leads to the whole booby trap going off and all of that, like, which is the significance of that event at the end of the episode.
To make a quick point before, I think, Dan, are you gonna say something?
You're good.
Okay.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Well, the one point I just want to say is, Zuko wasn't just tasked with finding the Avatar. Zuko was like banished by his own father, and said that he could not have like his honor back as the Fire Lord's son unless he found the Avatar. And so Zuko is like absolutely and angrily obsessed with finding the Avatar so that he can restore his honor, which is a huge point for his story.
I think another reason he was in the South Pole is because the Avatar was last seen 100 years ago, and the Avatar gets reincarnated to different elements: fire, air, water, and then earth.
Right.
And so he probably assumed it's been 100 years since all the airbenders were wiped out. He probably died of old age, so it's probably a waterbender now.
You know, that's actually a really good point.
Is there a natural cycle?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that cycle that Dan said is the natural cycle. So it's I don't know what it starts with, but it's air, water, earth,
Earth.
fire. Yeah.
Mhm.
But that's also a really good point what you're saying, because I don't think they actually specifically say anything like to that point in the show, but that would make a lot of sense because I remember at one point in the show they talk about how the Fire Nation has, I mean, they went to the South Pole and they were like finding water benders and imprisoning them or killing them, because the South Pole tribe is a lot weaker than the Northern tribe, and they tried to go to the Northern tribe, but it's too strong. And so, but that makes a good point that like I never thought about why are they trying to round up all these water benders? That doesn't make any sense to me, but that makes a lot more sense that, you know, they're trying to do that because they think maybe one of them is the Avatar. Yeah.
It's air, water, earth, fire.
Which is cool.
It's interesting.
Yes. So that's basically the first episode. A great pilot episode.
Incredible.
Yes. And now the second episode, chapter 2, is actually like, I guess that's when, well, they find out that Aang is the Avatar, right? So the episode is called The Avatar Returns. And this is basically when they introduce these 3 good main characters to their bad guy, Prince Zuko. Which is really important because Zuko's, you know, chasing them all the time. And so you have all of them, and I mean, there's not really much to go or really to get into in this episode. I think there's a couple main points. I think for me, those main points are Aang reveals himself as the Avatar. And then he goes into the, what is it called? Avatar mode or whatever.
Our state.
Yeah, Avatar state. And then they begin their adventure. Those are like the 3 main points. I don't know if you want to go into like, really the Avatar state is something that's kind of interesting if somebody wants to go into that.
So, go ahead, Dan, if you want to talk about it.
Well, I was going to talk about something else. I like that episode because it's like the first episode where Aang accepts he's the Avatar. Because the whole reason he got frozen in the ice is because he was trying to run away from that fact because he didn't want to be the Avatar. But in that one, he realized, I have to sacrifice myself, give myself up to save these people because of who I am. And yeah, the Avatar state as well. I feel like once he accepted he was the Avatar, he was able to do that a little more easily. And it's just, I think they become more in tune with the spirit world and their bending powers get amplified as well. Like a fully fledged Avatar is pretty much unstoppable in the Avatar state. But because Aang isn't a fully fledged Avatar, his isn't as powerful, but it gives them bending abilities that most benders, pretty much no other benders, have the ability to perform.
Yeah. So the Avatar state's kind of really interesting because at least at the beginning, the concept of the Avatar state is that it's the ability that the Avatar specifically has, and we've kind of touched on this subject a little bit. As is the Avatar really the only person that can be master of all 4 elements, or anybody do it if they try hard enough? And I think maybe this is just a thought I had, but maybe the differentiation between someone else who might be able to learn multiple bending styles would be that they cannot enter the Avatar state, and that is something that's imbued specifically to Avatar. Because like we've touched on before, the Avatar is an ever-present individual that is basically this reincarnated to another being, and the influences of all previous avatars are imbued spiritually into the person who takes on the mantle of the Avatar at that time. So the Avatar state is kind of this primal, at least at the beginning with Aang, is this primal survival instinct. And we find out that that's basically what he used to put himself into the iceberg. But as well, he activates it here at the end, close to the end of the episode. He does it because he's getting his butt kicked by Zuko in an airbending fight and almost drowns, getting launched off Zuko's ship. And then he kind of just does this super awesome like water tornado deal where he like launches himself up and starts doing crazy water bending stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's, the Avatar. I think what that moment was for Aang, I think Dan hit really well, was him embracing the fact that he was the Avatar, which then allowed it to be more like to be used in a more efficient way than just in a split second to save his life.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's touching back on the abilities of all previous avatars. So he was channeling the ability to waterbend from other people, which is a really interesting concept. And again, the show has got a lot of really interesting ideas, and the way it
Lore.
goes about those are war never changes. It's a really cool show, and I think anybody who even after the first and second episode, you see all the bending styles except for Earth after the second episode, right? So you see those three, and the thought that every kid, every boy, maybe girls did it too, but every boy went outside and was like fireball and pretended they could shoot fire out of their hands, or was like, no, I blew you over, like you can't get up, I win. Like no, I had invulnerability on, you can't do that, like like stupid crap
Avatar
like
state.
that. Like, so it was really like, I think all of us were this was all pre-high school for me when this shows came out, and so I think it fueled a lot of a kid's imaginations and stuff. So I the whole concept's really cool, and the second episode does introduce a lot of things that are persistent throughout the rest of the show.
It's funny because I actually didn't watch this show as a kid.
Oh, really?
Because I thought it was just some dumb anime show, and I didn't like anime. I never liked it, and it was actually a church missionary who was like serving in my area. He was super cool, from California. His name was last name redacted. His name was Ryan. Super cool guy. And he's like 21, and he's like a chill dude. And so he was like, dude, you should watch Avatar. And I was like, no. And I'm like 18, right? Like I'm like 17 or 18 years old. I think I was like a senior in high school. And he was like, dude, watch it. And I was like, dude, I don't like anime, and it looks like such a dumb show. And he's like, I guarantee you watch 3 episodes, and if you don't like it after those 3 episodes, you can never watch it again. I won't even bug you about it. And I watched those 3 episodes, and I was hooked. Like, I was like, I love this show. And I think I finished it. I mean, it's not a long show, but I finished it in probably a week. Like, I just was like hooked. And it was on Netflix at the time. It's back on Netflix now, but it was off for a while. But I love the show so much. And but it's kind of a bummer, like I didn't have like that childhood. I didn't get to pretend I was a earthbender or anything. But it is interesting that all the bending styles, like you were talking about, like we see all these bending styles, they're actually based off of actual like fighting styles. I don't know if it's a type of kung fu or karate or jujitsu or anything. I don't know what like it's actually a part of, but I do know that they are actual like developed fighting styles. I mean, you can't actually like bend elements if you do them. I don't know, maybe you can. I've never tried. But they are cool like fighting styles. Like you can actually learn firebending fighting styles. But
it's interesting to see the differences in terms of like each element has to do it very differently to be able to channel that element. So there's a lot of interesting stuff there.
Yeah. Let's go through the third episode super quickly. It is actually a really important episode. But so it is it's the Southern Air Temple. So after all that happens with Aang and Zuko and Katara and Sokka, the Katara and Sokka go with Aang to help him master all the elements. Basically go along with him on his journey and kind of guide him around kind of thing. And the first place they go to is the Southern Air Temple, which is where Aang grew up. I don't know if he was born there, but
yeah, he grew up there.
It's where he was trained to be an air nomad. And his master there was is it Monk Iatsu, or is it like I don't know, they say it so fast. Monk Iatsu.
Monkey Yahtzee.
Gyoza.
Monkey Yahtzee.
Monkey Yahtzee.
But yeah, so they go to there, and like the main thing is like Katara's like, Aang, like, just so you know, like,
Not gonna like what you see.
yeah, you're not gonna like what you see. And Aang's like super optimistic. He's like, no, like it's gonna be fine. Like he thinks that, you know, they're all gonna be there. It's gonna be the same as it was 100 years ago. And they show up there and it's completely empty. And it doesn't really like dawn on Aang that like they're dead.
It's weird.
Yeah, well, yeah, like it's like he's just like, it's weird because it's like he knows they're gone, like they're not there, but like he's almost like still super optimistic that like they're there, and it's like,
Yeah.
dude, they're not there. But it is an important episode about the Avatar state, which we've kind of already gone over. Just like how all the avatars before him, this episode is where he finds that out, that all the avatars before him live within him, and like their spirits, and the Avatar state is really important. I think that's where he first talks to Avatar Roku, who is the Avatar right before him, who is a firebender.
The Avatar of streaming services.
Yes. He had
Roku.
the Element, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, and YouTube.
Not sponsors.
Yeah.
That took me a while. Oh my gosh.
It's like, wait.
I was like, Amazon Fire? I guess. Okay.
It's funny because every time I see like a Roku TV, I'm like, Avatar Roku.
Oh
I think for me, there's two things for me that happen in this episode that I want to just touch on. First, they meet and adopt and keep for the rest of the show their very good friend Momo.
Duh.
Yeah. That's the best part of the whole show.
Momo is a flying lemur
Yes.
that hangs out with
Flying
him
lemur.
and becomes good friends with Appa. And then he's just there. He's cute. He's very adorable.
Yes.
And then for me, again, I love Iroh as a character.
Mhm.
There's a really interesting, there's something interesting happens at separate to what's happening at the Southern Air Temple. At the same time, like this is what are happening with our bad guy Zuko. He's doing repairs on his ship after Aang effed it up, and he runs into General Zhao,
Oh yeah.
who is I guess it's Commander Zhao at the time. He's part of the Fire Nation Navy. He's just ends up Zuko and Zhao end up having a rivalry throughout the show, but this gets introduced in this episode. Zhao ends up finding out that Zuko found the Avatar and all this stuff, and he basically says, well, I'm going to find the Avatar now. Like, sucks to suck. I'm going to find him because I have a whole fleet of ships to help me do it and all this stuff. Zuko reasonably gets pissed because this is his only chance to be accepted back by his father and to be back at his rightful place in the Fire Nation. He challenges him to an Agni Kai, which is like a fire-bending one-on-one duel. And Zuko ends up winning. Then he spares Zhao's life and then turns around and Zhao tries to like sucker punch him with firebending, and Iroh walks in and just like and just stops him dead in his tracks. And it was just like, you should not be so dishonorable. Like it's just like he just puts him in his place like a disappointed grandpa.
Yeah.
In this super badass way. Sorry, I had to say it that way.
There's no other way
because
there go our sponsors.
and Zhao calls Iroh something interesting in this episode. He calls him the Dragon of the West.
Yes.
And that's when you realize that Iroh was a war hero at the beginning of the war. Like he was a huge general in the Fire Nation and helped basically just decimate a lot of the opponents early on in this war that's been going on 100 years. Yeah. So he's not just this pudgy, drinking guy who loves lotus tiles and what's the game called?
Paisho.
Like there is a lot to him. And that's what I like that it gets introduced in this episode too. But we also find out that the Avatar state can get triggered by anger because Aang finds the skeleton of his master, Monkeyatsu, and it just sends him into a rage. Yeah. And that's also really interesting because you find out how much he trusts Sokka and Katara because they're able to calm him down and bring him out of that state. And they've only known each other now for maybe a week.
maybe
travel. Like, so it's kind of interesting that he's imbued so much trust in them, but he's also just so the reason Katara goes with because Katara's like I'm going with him, and then Sokka joins on a little bit after, but she wants to help teach him waterbending.
Right.
That's the main reason why she joins him is because he at the time is the only waterbender that he has access to is Katara. So it's kind of just like guilty by association, but
Yeah.
good episode.
Great episode. Yeah. So I think episodes 4 and 5 are kind of filler episodes. So I think we can just super duper basically go over them right now, unless you guys want to save them for another time. But I feel like it's the episode 4 is called The Warriors of Kyoshi.
Come on, that's an amazing
We
episode.
should go over
They're-
those more in depth.
I
Because
mean,
like
they're great
you meet a main
episodes.
character there.
That's true. The next one is the King of Omashu. Do
I
we
love
want to
that one.
save them for
That one's
another?
so good.
I love the King of Omashu. That was my
Meet
favorite episode.
Boomy,
Yeah,
man.
I
Come
love Boomy.
on. I don't want to ruin
Okay,
things,
okay.
but we gotta like
All right. So do we want to save that
so good
for next week, or are we gonna, or what? I mean, so we're
I think we could spend. Yeah, I think we should go. Like, yeah.
Okay.
I think we will cover those at a time.
Mhm.
At a time.
So next week we'll do episodes 4, 5, and
Big
6.
time.
How about that?
I like it.
Okay. Because then episodes 7 and 8 are like a part 1, part 2 sort of thing.
Yes, and those are big.
Yeah,
So we'll
very
take
big.
time with those ones.
But all in all, like this show is amazing. I've known almost every person that I've met who's like, no, I don't like anime or I don't like cartoons. I've pulled the same thing that was pulled on me that is like, watch 3 episodes, and if you don't like it, you don't have to watch it. And almost every single time, they're like, man, I love this show so much.
I hate you, man. I have
Yeah.
to watch this whole thing now.
Exactly.
Like-
And like, it's kind of interesting. Like, actually, I forgot to mention, it has a pretty decent casting. I mean, General Zhao or Commander Zhao is played by the guy who plays Lucius Malfoy.
it's Jason Isaac.
Yeah, that's his name.
Really?
Couldn't remember his name.
I had no idea.
And I don't remember his name. I think it's like Mako is the guy who plays Uncle Iroh. He's not like super well known, but he's actually pretty well known in the like animated voice acting world. He passed away during this show, but we'll get into that way later. I think it's like in season 2. And then the same guy who does all the voices for the clone troopers in Clone Wars, he does Appa, and I think he does Momo, and he also he does like random like extra characters in the show every now and then. But I mean, it's a great story. Highly recommend it. Honestly, you can watch the show as we do our podcast episodes. That's kind of why I said we'll talk about episodes 4, 5, and 6, so then people can watch it before we do our episode, and then we'll go over it.
This is the other big name that's in there. Fire Lord Ozai is voiced by Mark Hamill.
Duh, I totally
Hamill,
forgot
that's
about
cool.
that. Yeah. Oh, and Prince Zuko is played by the kid who plays Rufio in Hook, the movie Hook.
Hook, yeah. He's actually done a lot of voiceover work. You can recognize his voice pretty straight off.
He was in Star Wars Rebels as well.
Yeah.
He played a character in Star Wars Rebels.
I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Any last words, punks? I don't know if there's anything else to kind of go over here.
George Takei has a small part later in like season 2, but
I actually
like the
do-
warden of a prison boat.
The girl who plays guitar is actually, I mean, she's not like super famous, but she is pretty well known with live action acting.
She was in a movie called The Duff.
Yeah.
The main girl in that. I know her from that, but
Yeah. But yeah. I don't know. Anything else? Oh, I did actually have
you're all beautiful.
I did have one fun fact. It's not like specific to these episodes, but it is specific to the character we meet in these first 2 episodes. And that is about Prince Zuko. Prince Zuko almost wasn't actually in the show, which I found super interesting. it says that so everybody loves Prince Zuko, first of all, right? So it's everyone's like, oh, thank goodness that he's in the show. But originally the writers had intended that the Fire Lord was going to be like the main villain. I mean, he is the main villain, but he was going to be the one that was like always there and like always
Hunting them down.
yeah, hunting him down sort of thing. But for all 3 seasons. But however, they realized that they couldn't do enough with the Fire Lord, especially with him like they kind of wanted him to be just kind of at his throne in the Fire Nation all the time. And so they ended up writing in Zuko's character instead. And honestly, I think everyone is...
It was a great decision.
Yeah, great decision. I have a lot of fun facts here, but a lot of them are kind of... I don't want to use them yet because they kind of talk about later episodes. So, but we'll just give that one. That's a kind of... I didn't know that Prince Zuko wasn't almost in the show. So...
For any of you, this is the only thing, my parting shot. Any of you that are thinking, well, what about X element or X thing that, like, can people bend this? Can people bend that? Those questions will also be answered.
Oh, yes. Very
it's
much
not
so.
just,
It's true.
it's not just fire, air, water. It's not literal. Like there's other possibilities out there.
Yes.
So it's very interesting.
And that kind of goes along with what I said earlier. Like, the lore in this show is so deep and like well thought through that's why I think the show holds to this day. To this day, it holds. To this day. Yeah. Yeah, I don't have anything else. Dan?
Nor me.
Okay. Again, we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, YouTube, every platform. We have a Discord. If you want to come in, join, and throw out some memes or just discuss topics of different things, or suggest some topics for us to talk about on the podcast, you can join that. The invite link to the Discord is on our Instagram bio. Go and check that out. Super grateful for the few people who listen to us. We enjoy it. And if there was one person listening, if there was 0 people listening, I think we'd still do this.
Yeah.
Honestly. But yeah, I don't have anything else. Next week again is episodes 4, 5, and 6 of the first season of Avatar the Last Airbender.
Catch up with us.
Yes, catch up.
Get you.
Watch it with us. But yeah, other than that, thank you so much, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
The Council of Nerds.